Hello, hello, hello. It's Josie here coming on for my live at 5. Welcome to tonight's training. It's called How to Stop Caring So Much About What Other People Think. This is a juicy one and one that's really timely because right now inside my group, Completely Confident Leadership, I'm doing a special public speaking workshop. And this is the number one thing that comes up for people when they talk about their fear of public speaking is really worrying what other people think. And so I decided to do a special standalone training for those of you who are tracking whether or not you're doing my workshop so that you can benefit from some new ways of thinking and some new ways of being that might really relieve you from the exhausting pattern of chasing other people's approval. Are you ready? Let's go. First of all, I just want to give us a little level setting. Why do we do this in the first place? You're not crazy. Let me explain why we have this tendency in the first place. We have this compulsion to absolutely care what other people think because we're social animals, because our history in our DNA, our whole survival depended on acceptance from others. We lived in small family groups. We relied on each other for safety, for security, for survival. And that behavior is hardwired in our brains. It's something that we still have deeply set. Although now we need it less because we can function without that kind of approval, we still worry so much about being ostracized, about being rejected, about being judged or kicked out. Those behaviors being left out of the social network was equal to death. And we still feel that fear today. So we have this deep-seated need based on our survival, based on our significance, to be accepted and to care what other people think. And there's another way we've adapted. We have developed to read signals, to read facial signals and nonverbal signals to know, to benchmark how we're coming across and whether or not the people that are in front of us are accepting us or rejecting us. We've learned and we've trained ourselves since before we even had a self-concept how to know if we were in good graces with the people that mattered to us. That's why we care so much about the nonverbal signals that we get today. There's a really funny, not funny, haha, but interesting study that was done that shows that our stress hormone, cortisol, spikes when we're interviewing with somebody who is trained, in a job interview, who is trained to show no emotion, that just stands there and looks at you like this while you're, trying to engage and trying to ingratiate yourself and trying to explain who you are and trying to win a job in that environment. They've done studies that show that just the nonverbal response that you're taking in that tells you whether or not you're accepted, whether or not there's approval, whether or not there's affirmation, gives you either a sense of safety or a sense of stress. So we've learned how to care what other people think, and that's a good thing, right? It leads to good social skills. It leads us to having good friends and happy relationships. But the reason we're here today talking about it is that so many of us have taken it to a point of distortion. We've taken it to a point where it matters more to us what other people think than even what we think or who we think we are or what we believe. So that's why this really needs some attention, is we know it's exhausting to be chasing the approval of others and that it doesn't get us anywhere, but we don't know how to get rid of it. Is this resonating for you? If any of this is what I'm saying makes good sense, give me a hello, give me a hi, tell me I get it. All right, so you're not wrong to care. It's deep-seated, it's hardwired. I'm just suggesting, and this is meant to be sort of funny, that you can care less. You can care a little bit less what other people think. It's good for you. Let's talk about that. I'm not going to be coaching you to become a self-involved narcissist that cares nothing about what other people think, that is willing to reject the acceptance of others. You're not ever going to be that kind of person. Not if you're in my group. You're already tended to be somebody who's empathetic and who cares about emotions and wants to be liked. So we're not talking about rejecting people and kind of giving the raised middle finger to everyone to say, F you, it's my way or the highway. I don't care, me first. I'm self-involved. Sometimes people think that that's what it means. If I somehow care a little bit less, it'll make me selfish. It'll make me self-involved. It'll make me unpopular. It feels risky, like I have to keep behaving this way. But I'm here to show you that that's just all or nothing thinking, and there's a middle path. Okay, so why should we care a little bit less? Well, perhaps you already know that it's exhausting to be chasing after the approval of others, but let's talk about other reasons why. If you constantly make adjustments to who you are and how you present yourself, even what you wear or how you speak or the events that you go to, the behaviors that you adopt, if you're constantly making adjustments for others' approval, you're basically shape-shifting yourself into something smaller than who you really are. You're adapting and adjusting, and that always means becoming smaller. That's not expanding larger and taking more risks. It's curling in a little bit. It's not being authentic. So the reason why we're talking about this, number one, I'm going to give you some numbered reasons. Number one reason is that caring what other people think is never going to make you happy. It won't make you happy. Because if you are constantly trying to shapeshift in effort to get other people to like you, you're not being genuine and authentic. And you can't be genuinely happy if you're not being genuine. A lot of people know this when they wake up sometime after grad school and they have the job and they have all the things that they thought that their parents would approve of, that they adapted and adopted all of these behaviors and these certifications and these signs of approval from schools and government and society, and they realize they're not happy because they haven't been living their own life. They haven't been genuine. That's the number one reason why we want to care less about what other people think and care more about what we think. Number two, it's not even possible to make other people like us. So it's a waste of time. I hope you find that one somewhat humorous. It would be absolutely impossible to make everyone happy with you. I like to say it's unrealistic. You don't even like everybody. Why do you want everybody to like you? Why do we need everyone to approve of us when we don't even approve of everybody? So maybe adopting a more realistic attitude is another reason why we need to care a little less about trying to make everybody else happy. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of effort, it's not realistic, and it forces you to be fake. That's not our quest. We're looking to be genuine. Now, having said that, I want to put a little pin in for those of you who are listening and thinking, but my parents have a stronghold on their judgment of me, or my family, or the social structure that I'm really heavily embedded in. And I want to come back to that because I do think that's really compelling. But let's keep on with this, that the third reason why you want to care a little bit less about what other people think is that it's a bad habit. It's a bad exercise. It is this quest that has you ever seeking external validation. And it's never good enough. You will go out and get somebody's approval. You go out and get somebody to validate you, but you'll have to do it again tomorrow because it doesn't last. You need to care less about what other people think because it's really an inside job about what you think, and we'll get to that. So it's a bad self-esteem exercise. It's a bad habit. It perpetuates the lie that your worthiness is dependent on your effort or your results or your work product. And that's actually just not true. There's no way you could add anything to make you even more worthy than you already are. So it's flawed thinking. That's the reason why. Number three, it's a bad self-esteem exercise, it's a bad habit, and it's flawed thinking that you need somebody else's approval to make you better, more, or complete. You already are. Number four, it increases anxiety. It feeds the fear that we're not enough. It's like being on a tightrope and fearing falling. It increases anxiety. We feel like we're in a failure environment, that all we can do is mess up. We have to try to not mess up. And when we're in that I can't mess up mindset, we're living in absolute fear of what other people will think. What if I make a mistake? This increases anxiety. So we don't want to live in this type of paradigm, because it's not only exhausting, it's toxic to our health. I want to say now that here's a truth. The truth is, get ready for this. People don't actually care that much about us. You might think they do, especially people who criticize you all the time, especially people who are close to you in your life, if you feel like you have a lot of that. But honestly, if you think about all the people that you know, how much time and attention are you devoting to your thoughts about how each one of them shows up in your life? Chances are not consistently, because all of us are sort of self-focused. The people that we're worried about judging us are not really paying attention to us, at least not all the time. They're in their own drama. What they're really paying attention to is themselves and whether or not they're doing good enough. They're worried about their own life. And so if you can see that, maybe it can help release the stronghold that we have on behaving in such a way that gets approval from them. I like to say that we want to try to not be in a negative focus. We want to not try to avoid judgment, avoid making a mistake, avoid a misstep, avoid criticism, because that's negative focus, right? That's that failure environment that we're in. But instead, think about what we're contributing, who we're being, not who we're not being. We want to be in a positive, expressive focus. We want to start being totally you, all me, because that's all the way that we can be. We're spending way too much energy, if we care what other people think, by modulating our delivery to be somewhat like me, but hopefully a little bit more like what they want me to be, which we can't even guess at, we can't even know is true. Is this blowing your brain? Are you following? Here's the thing. What we're really afraid of is that what we're attached to. What we're really afraid of when we think that we're worried about what other people think is a clue to what we're afraid of, deeply seated in ourselves, that it is a clue to the self-esteem that we need to heal. Like, let's say somebody just gets my name wrong. That doesn't make me feel bad about myself, because I know my name, I know who I am. That's not a problem for me. I just correct them. If somebody were to argue with me about something that I truly believe in my heart of hearts, like who my mom and dad are, like deeply seated belief, it wouldn't be an issue, because there's no friction or resistance, because I know, I believe, I have no problem. But if somebody wants to criticize me for something that I'm not so sure about, that I'm worried about whether or not it's true, if I worry about my delivery, if I worry about how good I am, if I'm consumed with thoughts about being enough, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I enough? Am I performing well? Am I pretty enough? Am I young enough? Am I fit enough? If those things don't have a strong base in my deeply held belief about who I am, it's going to touch a nerve, and that's what we're afraid of, right? That's the truth of what we're afraid to feel, is that somebody might criticize us in a way that we're already criticizing ourselves. So let's drop what other people think and care what we think, and work on our own self-concept, our own self-esteem. When I say it's time to be totally you and stop trying to modulate you to be the you think other people want you to be, if that brings on some hesitation or some fear or some resistance, if you're holding yourself back and thinking, but I don't want to actually go that big because it makes me feel afraid, timid, I'm afraid of rejection, I'm afraid of what they'll say, then you just need a little help really seeing the truth of who you are, really coming into clarity with your self-esteem, with positive self-beliefs. And this, my friends, is where coaching comes in, where you can bring a coach alongside you to see where your thinking is flawed, where you need help focusing on the more appropriate places for your self-concept and your self-esteem, where you can cure bad habits and stay on course and help rewrite your story. When you can discover yourself, you can accept and love yourself. When your self-concept is solid and in place, your self-expression is authentic and compelling and enjoyable for you because it's you being you. And it leads you to leading a more courageous and more confident life. And that is what you want. Not to be caring about what other people think, but to be busy getting on with you being you because you like being you. All right, ladies. If this is compelling to you and you would like some help finding that positive, resilient self-concept that makes you feel good about being you and has you naturally caring less what other people think because you're too busy, because you're enjoying being who you are, because you know that you're already good enough, if you need some help with that, then you got to get in my Completely Confident Leadership group. We meet every week to do small group coaching to help our concept with exercises that rewire our thinking to positive self-belief. And it's not just airy-fairy woo-woo. We then learn techniques and tactics to do things like public speaking and to dare ourselves to really express ourselves and be large the way that we were intended to be the leaders in our lives, to be inspired and inspirational, to be influential, to be confident the way that we long to be. If that sounds like something you want, you got to DM me and I'll let you know how you can get in. And that's what I got for you tonight, ladies. Go well.